welcome back to a very special edition of my channel because I'm going to talk about a series of books that I love, and it's neither December nor February, so good things can happen to those who wait, guys. I do like some books. This week, I will be going over Brashares' Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants Quartet. Although technically there is now a fifth book because she did write a new-ish. She wrote a fifth book kind of detailing what the girls are getting into about 10 years after the last book ends. So I'm excited to go over all of these because this is a series that I love to hate. Not even love to hate, but that I both love and hate. I love it because it never fails to reel me in. And I think this goes perfectly with how things are going these days, where everybody loves the nostalgia factor. And this is so nostalgic for me. It never fails to remind me what it's like to be a teenager. I think Brashares captures that point in time so perfectly. But that's also why I hate this series, but I hate it in the best kind of way. Because I get so frustrated, so angry at how these girls behave. Their drama, the lack of communication, just all the things that they do that as an adult, I'm like, whoa, okay, we need to reel it back in a little bit and just calm down. If you just look at it from a different perspective, you'd be fine. But they're teenagers. They're not gonna look at it rationally. If you are from another universe and you've never read this series, it is about a group of friends, 4 girls, who are going to be spending their first summer apart ever. And one of them just happens to stumble across this pair of pants that magically fits all of their diverse body types wonderfully. And so they decide to send the pants around, and so it's going to keep them connected, but then it also is supposed to inject a sense of magic and possibility into the period of time that they have them. The 4 girls are, I was going to say Effie. Effie's not one of them. The 4 girls are Lena, Bridget, Carmen, and Tibby. I also love this book because of the friendship theme. I am all about friendship. And I'm so jealous of the friendship that these girls share because I've never had anybody in my life who loves me unconditionally the way that they love each other. Someone that I could count on and share things with and know will be there forever. If that is something that you enjoy, this would be a really great book/series for you. Lena is Greek, and she's going to be spending the summer in Greece with her Greek grandparents. Again, how many times can I say the word Greek? Tibby is actually going to be staying. They live in Maryland. She's going to be staying and working at the local store Wallman's, which she is not excited about. Bridget is going to a soccer camp in Baja, and then Carmen is going to go spend the summer with her dad in South Carolina. Now, I have been trying to figure out who my favorite friend is, or who I am most like. I think my least favorite is Lena, because I think she's a little bit boring. Lena is supposed to be this incredible beauty. And because of that, she has this tendency to withdraw. She's not necessarily the friendliest of people. She doesn't like how she perceives the way that people see her and assume stuff about her because of her beauty. And so I get annoyed with her because I'm like, Lena, could you just do something? Could you actually say something? She's extremely introspective, and I just get annoyed by her behavior. But it's great because it fits so well with all the other personalities. You kind of do need that personality. But for me, you know, when there are books with multiple perspectives and there's always one that you can't wait to get back to, and then there's one that you kind of like to skip. I tend to skip Lena's chapters, particularly in the Summerhood of the Traveling Pants, this first one. Because as much as I love Costas and I love the storyline, their beginning is not my favorite, and so I just could do without her. And kind of on that note, I know there is this huge divide about books versus movies. And in this one, so I'm jumping ahead just a little bit. If you know anything about Bee, who's probably my favorite, I wish I could be Bee, so she's not the one I'm most like. I'm probably most like Carmen, but Bee is the one that I want to be. So Bee has a lot of things that have happened in her past that she just hasn't dealt with, and then she ends up doing something in this book that sends her on a downward spiral. In the book, Lena comes to the soccer camp to sort of be there for Bee. In the book, all of the girls, so Bee has finally come home, and then all of the girls are like, something's wrong with Bee. We need to go be there for Bee, and they show up at her house and they do what they need to do. So I gotta say, I kind of like the movie version better, just because I like how all of the girls band around Bee versus just Lena, because I've failed to connect with Lena in this book. And then she's coming home from Greece only to realize, hey, I need to reroute my flight so that I can then go to Baja and be there for my best friend, when I'm like, I mean, you're the person that I would think would be the last one to go there, because I've never been convinced as to why Lena is such a great friend. Anyways, so that's all this whole little thing about Lena, where I don't like her as much in the book as I do in the movie, and maybe that's because I really like Alexis Bledel. Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. We have the 4 different girls off on their 4 different adventures, and yeah, I'll just go with Lena because I already kind of talked about. So yes, Lena goes to Greece. She doesn't know much about Greece, or she doesn't know Greek. She doesn't really know her Greek grandparents, and so she's excited, but she's kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And then she also has this younger sister, Effie, who I think Effie is super fun. Eventually, I get to this point in the series where I'm like, I don't understand why Effie has to be part of things, but whatever. But Lena is the more beautiful of the two. Effie is kind of the more interesting of the two, which is why I like Effie better. But I really, really hate how Lena's like, people, they gravitate towards me first because I'm beautiful, but eventually they'll learn that Effie is the better of the two of us. And that's a problem for me, because automatically she's losing me by saying, I'm not interesting, and I'm feeling sorry for myself about it. Which she's not necessarily, but she is. Her grandparents have a very close relationship with another set of grandparents, and their grandson is Costas, who, this is sort of a spoiler, but not really, but we eventually learn that he is in Greece. Like, he's American, of Greek heritage, but his parents and his younger sibling had actually died when he was really young, which is why he lives with his grandparents in Greece. He is apparently some golden boy. You know, when he came, the entire town sort of raised him up, and they all love him, and he's gonna go to the London School of Economics. So Effie's grandparents are like, there's this boy. So they have these high aspirations for Lena to marry Costas, essentially. But because Lena is so hung up on people judging her by her looks, that she completely ghosts Costas. She wants nothing to do with him. She won't even give him a chance. How do you connect with that? But she's falling in love with him anyways. I just struggle with Lena. I really do. I don't understand her mindset. But Lena is a painter. At one point during her summer, she finds an olive grove, and she's painting, and then she's like, you know what? I'm gonna go swimming. I don't have my bathing suit, but nobody's here, so I'm just gonna go skinny dipping. She realizes, or she discovers, that Costas is there, and she flips out, which I'd probably flip out too. But then she gets home, and her grandma's like, what's going on? And she gives her grandmother the impression that Costas assaulted her, and then this causes a rift between the grandparents, and Lena is feeling so guilty, which she should, and she determines very early on that she needs to set things straight. Does she ever set things straight? Absolutely not. Eventually, the grandparents and Costas all reconcile, but Lena still hasn't told the truth. She does go to her grandmother at some point and be like, Grandma, so you know the thing that I kind of let you believe happened, it didn't actually happen. And the grandma's like, you know, we kind of figured it out eventually. And so it's literally the last day in Greece. And Lena, well, no, earlier, Lena had gone to the olive grove to paint, and she discovered Costas skinny dipping. And at which point she realizes this is Costas's olive grove. This is probably where he has always come on a hot day to relax and get refreshed. So she, on the last day, she's like, I need to talk to Costas. She finds him at his grandfather's forge. They reconcile, and then she, in a very roundabout way, is like, so I actually like you. So they make out, and then she leaves, and they're together and happily ever after. Now let's go on to Bee, since I sort of already spoiled some things for that. As I said, Bee is at a soccer camp in Baja. She is a soccer star, and she has this fantastic blonde hair, which I think that the casting director for the movie did such a great job, because Blake Lively is exactly who I would have pictured as Bee. In fact, all of the actresses, except for perhaps Alexis Bledel, sometimes I'm like, is she quite Lena? Is she not? But anyways, it was such a great casting job. Except I think probably Blake Lively is prettier than Bee. We are given the impression that Bee attracts guys, one, because of her fabulous hair, and two, because she does have this great body from working out all the time, and she has this vivacious personality. And so Bee gets to this camp, and she falls in love with one of the coaches, and his name is Eric. This is something that I wish that had been different in the movie, which I know I'm not really here to compare movie to book, but I like the movie a lot. But in the book, Eric is half Mexican, and in the movie, he's this blonde California kind of guy, and I don't see why it should have been so hard to keep him as Mexican. Whatever. But he, you know, it's known, like, he will not go after players. He likes to stick to the rules, and you could get in trouble if something happens. Bee is irrepressible, and she will not let it go. She kind of gets into trouble at the soccer camp, like, with her coach, because she's irrepressible. And so she goes either too hard in order to press Eric, or she doesn't go hard enough, or she'll always do things that her coach is like, I don't want you to do that, which I don't understand, but I'll get to that in a minute. Bridget pursues Eric, and eventually they sleep together. She's only 15. At this point, because her mother had died some 5-6 years earlier, and when they sleep together, she falls into this intense depression, which is something it's probably my biggest struggle with the book, and kind of leading into the next one, because I know she hasn't dealt with the loss of her mother, but at the same time, she made this happen, and I don't understand why that one act would all of a sudden bring on this behavior. I guess there's something to do with the intense feelings that she had, and then the culmination, the consummation of all of it maybe hit her like a train, and she just fell. Because even Eric comes back and is like, look, I'm sorry for what happened. I wanted it to, but it shouldn't have happened, this, that, and the other. And in the future, or, you know, if you're still interested, yeah, hit me up, blah, 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 blah. So he does say these really great things that you'd think would hit Bridget in the right way, but they don't. And so I had a really hard time understanding Bridget's mindset, but that's what happens, is she can't get out of bed. She can't function. So here we go. We're at the end of soccer camp, and it's the championship in which her team is part of, and she can't play. Like, she's lost all will to live. And her coach is like, all right, Bee, it's your turn. It's your time to shine. Like, hit the gas. And then when Bee can't do it, her coach is like, what's wrong? And Bee goes, so when you didn't want me to go full force, you sat me out. And now that you do want me to go full force and I can't do it, you're upset. Like, I can't always be what you want me to be. And that's what really bothers me about the coach is, again, I don't really understand what she's doing either. Because she's only 21. Eric is only 21. They're young. And so I understand that they're probably really good and they have credibility. Yeah, like they're capable of teaching younger women how to play the game. And yeah, Bridget's probably a ball hog. Bridget needs to learn how to work with her team. But I do not understand why her coach decides to do what she does. And like, she honestly never appreciates Bridget for what Bridget can do. And then she gets mad when Bridget doesn't come through. And I'm like, I understand she doesn't understand why Bridget has suddenly turned that corner. Why is she getting mad at Bridget? I just didn't feel like she was a very good coach. I didn't like her portrayal. So that's Bridget. Now, let's go on to Tibby. I think Tibby is probably my favorite storyline in the first book, largely because of Bailey. However, I do wish some things about Bailey had been more prevalent. The thing with that is, as I said, Tibby is working at Wallman's. She hates her life. She is very cynical. She's an aspiring filmmaker. She's decided to make a succumentary, which I think is hilarious. I love the idea of a succumentary. She views all these people in her life with this cynical lens. And so she's like, I'm going to film all of them and put them in my movie. And then she meets a girl named Bailey. Bailey's about 12. And she meets her because Bailey faints inside of Wallman's. Tibby goes with her to the hospital. And Bailey wakes up and she's like, you're the girl from Wallman's. So then Tibby has to go to Bailey's house because Bailey had left her wallet. Bailey has this attitude, and at first it puts me off, but eventually it's pretty endearing. And what we learn is that Bailey has leukemia. This is what I wish had been done just a little bit differently, because we know she has leukemia. It's not until the end of the book do we learn how sick she is. We just know she has it, and she's suffering from the effects of it. But at the end of the book, we learn that she has spent most of her life in a hospital, and that she's not at the hospital now because it's the end. Like, that's how bad her illness is, and she ends up dying. This was the first time that I realized how much of her illness was glossed over. It's not that we forget about it, but it's almost like it hits you like a Mack truck that she's that sick. And I would have liked for Brashares to maybe sprinkle in something or another. All we see is that she doesn't like talking about it. She doesn't ever want you to ask how she's doing or how she's feeling, and that she takes medication for it. Every now and again, we're given some tidbits about the circles under her eyes or the bruises on her legs. But I thought it could have been more strongly emphasized that she doesn't just have leukemia. She's severely ill. It is getting worse. Bailey helps Tibby film her succumentary, but Bailey has this way of looking at life that opens up Tibby's eyes to the fact that she's judging people falsely. And this is also when we meet Brian McBrien, because he's the Dragon Master at the 7-Eleven, and he becomes a greater character throughout the series, which is why I mention him. I enjoy Tibby's evolution because she does see things through the cynical lens when she needed to stop judging people and realize that, yeah, they might be quirky and weird, but they're real people and they're interesting people. And who cares about the superficial? Oh my goodness, I struggle so much when Bailey is in the hospital at the end of the novel because I cannot figure out Tibby's mindset. And this just goes back to Brashares' writing. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just how it is. For me, I would be at that hospital. I am consistently yelling at Tibby, first, wash your hair. Second, just get to the hospital. It's not that hard. But I guess because Tibby has always kept people at a distance, now that she has finally let Bailey in, the fact that Bailey is in such a state scares her to the point where she doesn't know how to react. Eventually, she does go to the hospital, and she is there for Bailey at the end. But I'm just like, Tibby, get your act together. Finally, we have Carmen, and I always enjoy Carmen. Aside from Lena, though, Carmen might be my least favorite storyline. Not necessarily because of Carmen, but because of her dad and all of her family situation. So the deal is, her parents are divorced. They've been divorced, and she always looks forward to seeing her dad. And this is the first time that she's gonna go to South Carolina and spend time with him and see his place, only to learn that he's engaged to another woman, and this woman has 2 children. Carmen is half Mexican, and her dad is this tall blonde guy, and her new stepmom is this tall blonde woman, and her children are these perfect blonde people. I mean, I understand why the dad didn't say anything, and it does make for good reading because holy cow, what a surprise. She gets there and she is like, what am I doing in the middle of this family? My dad has no time for me, and he's doing all these things that are contrary to the person I knew. So what has Lydia done to him? How has she changed him? How has she gotten him to say grace at the table? How has she gotten him to drive like a dad mobile? Like, how has she turned him into someone so suburban? My problem really is with the dad, and then even at the end, the way that he handles things, because Carmen, she gets so frustrated, and she feels like such an outcast in her own family that she had gone to the dress fitting with Lydia and Krista, who is stepmom, stepsister, or future stepmom, future stepsister. Her body type is very different from theirs. It's fun. Like, Brashares just does this really great way of making us see through the girls' lenses. So in actuality, none of these women are probably talking about Carmen in a negative way, but through Carmen's perspective, all she hears is, oh, well, Carmen is not good enough because she has curves and because she speaks with an accent and she just doesn't fit in. So she leaves the dress fitting, she goes. And she thinks, okay, well, when I get home, people are going to be really worried about me. They're probably looking for me. Only to find out that everybody's sitting around the table just eating dinner. And she gets so angry that she throws a rock through the window. I think she sneaks in the middle of the night. So she leaves again, and she sneaks in, gets her stuff, and goes back home. And the dad never reaches out. Actually, I think he does just to make sure she's safe. Then Carmen eventually comes to this realization that she's mad at him. Yeah, she thought she was, but she was blaming it more on Lydia and Paul and Krista. But really the root is she's mad at her dad. She doesn't understand why he's never made her a priority. She doesn't understand why he would replace her family, like leave her mother and leave her, and then replace them for a better family. She eventually calls him, and she's like, why? Why? And my frustration is he never answers. It's like, I'm sorry, and what you're thinking isn't right. Like, this is how it is. Or not even that it's not right, but it's like, there's a misconception here. This is the reality of the situation. Like, he never defends himself. And so that's when I'm like, Carmen, just let loose. I just want her to have this righteous indignation. So this is why I get so irritated with her storyline in this book, because it's so mellow despite all of her anger. I wanted to feel something more than frustration, especially because Paul, his dad, is an alcoholic. The dad is in a facility, and Paul goes to visit him. So Carmen says this to her dad. She's like, why is it that Paul regularly visits his alcoholic father, yet you can't call me? You can't visit me. Like, you won't spend time with me. You will not invest in me. What is wrong with me? And I think that's an excellent, excellent point, to which her dad never gives a satisfactory answer. I know I'm asking for a cookie cutter answer. I'm asking for a neat little bow resolution. But I thought it would have been really helpful. Like, it would have given me some peace of mind moving forward as to why Carmen would then decide to go to the wedding. It would have given me a greater understanding as to how Carmen could finally have peace about the whole situation if her dad had actually said something. But he just lets her say her piece, and then they kiss and make up. That is the book. I think there's a little something for everyone in it, and I think that is one thing that makes it so great. I was gonna say it's a timeless book, but in that, it's funny because it was written in the early 2000s, or it's set in the early 2000s, and there are a lot of elements that date it, like cell phones or internet, or just a lot of things that for me, I don't even pay attention to. But I'm sure for a lot of the new generation, there's probably 2 generations worth of readers who would have a hard time relating to some of the things in this book just because of the lack of technology. But I love how it complicates things because, like, they do email each other, but it's not so easy for them to keep in touch. It's not like they have social media and Instagram where they can just, there's no texting. There's none of that. It's just great how this book feels timeless for me, even though there are a lot of things that can make it, that can hold it back in terms of being able to hold its own in a world of ever-increasing literature. With that, I can tell, it's sort of dated by its writing style. There are a lot of adverbs, a lot of speech tags, a lot of things that we're discouraged from doing these days. And I kind of love it because it makes it feel effortless. Whereas right now, I feel like writing, there's all this emphasis on do's and don'ts and how to make things deep and meaningful and how to do stuff without a voice tag, which if you don't know what voice tags are, it's Beth said this or Beth screamed, or so it's generally what they don't want you to do is say screamed, whispered, asked, just said. And I feel like the publishing industry is demanding more from us than it really should. And I guess that's the only way you can keep up is to evolve writing styles. And sure, sometimes these adverbs or these dialogue tags, I'm like, okay, a question means she asked, or a question means she was curious. I don't need you to say asked curiously. Like, I just don't need it. So I can see how it does improve writing. It tightens the writing. But at the same time, it's like Brashares said what she wanted to say, and it was enough. Like, nobody said, all right, now you need to dig deep. You need to make it more meaningful. Like, you need to make the reader think more. Sometimes I don't want to think. I just want to enjoy 4 teenage girls going through teenage girl problems, okay? Like, that's what reading is for me. It's enjoyable, which is why I don't like literary fiction. Literary fiction, I feel like it's not meant for enjoyment. It's just to prove how smart you are as a writer or a reader. Anyways, that is the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. If you've read this series, which one is your favorite? Who is your favorite character? Who is the one that you are most like? As I said, I feel like I'm most like Carmen, only because we are sassy. But I want to be like Bee because Bee is a superstar, and I guess Bee is gorgeous, and Bee has the guys falling at her feet. Whereas Carmen, I think she's prettier than she realizes. But she has a lot more insecurities, and so that's what I'm hoping, is that I know I have insecurities, but maybe I'm prettier than I think. Granted, Carmen gets a lot more dates than I do, but I aspire to be Bee, but I love Bee and Carmen because she has so much personality. Anyways, that's it for today. I can't wait to see you next time, or actually which will be tomorrow, for the second summer of the Sisterhood. Have a great day. Bye.